The second that glossy SUV scraped against my corn header, I knew she had just written her own ending, and I didn't even have to say a word. I'm up in the cab of my combine, 40,000 pounds of steel crawling through shoulder-high corn, engine humming, dust floating in the sunrise, when a white BMW from Brightvale Ridge rolls right across my access road and cuts into my path. There's that ugly metal scream. Her front bumper kisses my harvester like it's a medieval wall. And for a moment, the whole field goes silent except for my engine idling and my heart pounding in my ears. I hit the brake, grab my phone, and start recording, because if life on the farm has taught me anything, it's this: you never argue with crazy when you can just press record. She jumps out, heels sinking into the gravel, blazer too clean for country air, waving her arms at my machine like she can scold a combine into backing down. This is HOA President Diane Kettering, Queen of the Brightvale Ridge Lakeside Association, self-appointed guardian of community aesthetics, and in her mind, my harvest is just background noise to her morning latte. My name is Cole Ramsey, third-generation corn farmer out in Oak Ridge County in Northwind State. My grandfather Harold Ramsey carved these 220 acres out of nothing but mud, debt, and stubbornness back in the 40s, left them to my dad, who left them to me. I've got my wife Emma, 2 kids, a mortgage, and a farm that's more heart than profit, but it's ours, it's home, and it was here long before a single brick of Brightvale Ridge ever existed. For 80 years, my family has used the same dirt access lane, a 30-foot easement burned right into the deed from 1943, the only sane way to bring equipment to the backfields without risking death on the highway. Then 3 years ago, Brightvale Ridge pops up next door, exclusive lakeside community, with marketing photos full of cornfields and sunsets, people who want the farm vibe without the actual farm. At the center of it all, Diane Kettering, ex-corporate HR, late career queen bee, 50-something, pearl white BMW, clipboard energy, the kind of woman who calls agriculture a lifestyle choice, while eating food grown by people like me. The first shot in this little war isn't subtle. I'm loading fertilizer bags one spring morning when she click-clacks down the lane, heels on gravel, designer sunglasses, nose wrinkling at the smell of diesel and manure, announces that my tractors are destroying the HOA entrance and that, effective immediately, I should use the highway like everyone else, which would mean loaded trucks turning across fast traffic during rush hour. A recipe for disaster. Ma'am, my grandfather cut this road before your subdivision was a drawing on a napkin. I tell her, calm but close to boiling. She smiles that corporate smile and says, "We'll see, Mr. Ramsey, I have connections at City Hall," then walks away like the credits already rolled. She doesn't stop there, of course. Noise complaints about my 5 a.m. chores, petitions about industrial hazards, anonymous reports about dust. She even drags my wife Emma, who teaches at the local school, into it, hinting there's some kind of conflict of interest in being married to a problematic farmer. One morning, she sets up an actual folding chair at the edge of my access road, umbrella, clipboard, cooler, her own little checkpoint, calls it an agricultural vehicle monitoring station. Every time I drive past in my old John Deere, her camera clicks like I'm a criminal crossing a border. My neighbor Hank Porter finally yells over, "You know the difference between Cole and you? He feeds people. You just feed drama." Her face goes scarlet, but the chair stays. Then the letter comes, official letterhead from the Brightvale Ridge Lakeside Association, accusations about incompatible agricultural operations on my own land, threats of daily penalties, all the fake legal language in the world trying to make me forget one simple fact. This farm was here first. That night, I sit in the barn staring at that paper while the smell of hay and oil wraps around me like a memory. Emma puts a hand on my shoulder and says quietly, "This is harassment. You've spent your life planning for bad weather. Do the same with her. Don't scream, don't swing, document, learn the rules better than she does." That's the thing about people like Diane. They think farmers are just muscle and mud. They never factor in patience, or how good we are at waiting for the right season to harvest. Next Saturday, instead of working on the combine, I drive into town, into that old courthouse that smells like dust, lost tempers, and burnt coffee, down to the records basement where the fluorescent lights buzz like bored hornets. Behind the counter is Margaret Lewis, the clerk who's watched 3 generations of Ramsey's signed papers. I tell her what's going on. She laughs. pulls out my grandfather's deed and the original easement filing, traces a finger across faded ink, and says, "Your right-of-way is 30 feet wide, Cole." I typed this up myself when I was the new girl. That road is carved into the land, not into Diane's imagination. 30 feet, and all these years I'd been using maybe 12, trying to be nice. Monday, I hire Glenn Parsons, the county surveyor, $300 and a thermos of coffee later. Bright orange steaks march right through the manicured "Welcome to Brightvale Ridge" flower bed, and, best of all, straight through the spot where Diane's little checkpoint chair has been parked. She's waiting for me the next morning, still armed with clipboard, but now surrounded by neon stakes. "What are these doing in our landscaping?" she snaps, high voice cutting through the cool air. "County markers," I say. "Turns out my easement is 30 feet, not 12. You've been camping in the middle of my legal right-of-way." It's almost funny watching her work through confusion, denial, then panic. She threatens an emergency board meeting, stomps off, and sure enough, by the end of the week, the chair is gone, replaced by her BMW hovering at the line, engine idling, her sitting inside glaring at those stakes like they personally insulted her. If the story ended there, it'd be nice, but entitled people don't learn from losing, they just get more creative. A county noise officer shows up at dawn after multiple complaints, decibel meter in hand, checking whether my pre-7 a.m. tractor really is the apocalypse, while Diane runs a Facebook group called Concerned Residents of Oak Ridge Shores, posting dramatic photos of ordinary dust clouds with captions about toxic plumes and agricultural abuse. Newer residents panic. Old-timers in town reply with things like, "Ma'am, that's corn." I take Emma's advice and go all in on documentation, cameras at every approach, logs of start times, weather data, screenshots of every wild claim she posts, and on top of that, I start reading Northwind's right to farm statutes, the ones that say if the farm was here first, the new neighbors don't get to call it a nuisance later. Diane responds with cones and sawhorses one morning, a plastic road closed sign stamped with HOA logo blocking my lane. I move them aside on camera. She appears out of nowhere, shrieking about safety inspections. I explain, again, that this is an easement older than she is, and that blocking it is actually a crime. That afternoon, Deputy Luis Chavez from the Oak Ridge County Sheriff's Office calls, says they've received complaints about someone obstructing farm access and filing sketchy reports, asks if I'm victim or suspect. I almost laugh. Tell him I'm the farmer with the full photo album. He tells me to bring everything in. In the station, under the hum of fluorescent lights and coffee smell, Chavez flips through my footage, deeds, printouts, nods slowly. "This is textbook interference with agricultural operations," he says. "We're opening a case." While law enforcement quietly ramps up, Diane goes bigger, calls local news, Channel 7. Reporter Jenna Rhodes shows up in my driveway and gets treated to a live rant about weaponized farming machinery and chemical warfare via corn dust. With my perfectly parked combine in the background looking bored, the camera guy's eyebrows climb a little higher with each sentence. They leave without even asking my side, but they've got what they need, a full clip of Diane sounding unhinged on TV. Then comes the oil. One damp morning, the air thick with that wet dirt smell, I find a shiny slick next to my equipment pad, a quart of motor oil poured just so, like a movie prop, and a trail leading toward a storm drain near the subdivision. My trail cams show Diane in the dark, pouring, arranging, placing a couple of dead fish by the drain like some twisted art project, then taking photos. She calls county environmental, state water quality, even the feds, spins a story about catastrophic leaks from my industrial equipment. Inspectors come, step out of their trucks, tilt their heads at the too perfect spill pattern, watch the footage from my cameras and say, very calmly, "Mr. Ramsey, this was staged." That's when the word fraud enters the chat. Not just local, but potentially federal environmental fraud, and Diane doesn't realize the ground is sliding under her. Meanwhile, in a little house at the far end of Brightvale Ridge, retired accountant Ruth Ellison has been asking for HOA financial statements. She calls one afternoon, invites Emma and me over, spreads printouts across her kitchen table, and taps one line after another. $15,000 to Kettering Community Solutions, LLC, $8,000 to a nephew's landscaping company, a suspicious pile of management fees that curiously match payments on Diane's BMW. Your neighbor is stealing from her own community to pay for this war, Ruth says, voice calm but eyes blazing. And your combine isn't the only thing she's going to wreck. We bring in Carla Monroe, an agricultural attorney with a talent for burning HOAs to the ground, legally, and Bill Hanley, the county extension agent who's seen every version of this city versus farm story. We sit around my kitchen, coffee and fresh cookies on the table, while they map it out. Criminal interference with farming, environmental hoaxes, embezzlement through Kettering Community Solutions LLC, violation of HOA rules about competitive bidding, and, as Ruth gleefully points out, a BMW lease that specifically forbids commercial use, which means every time Diane uses that car as an official HOA vehicle, her insurance gets shakier. We agree on one thing: don't rush the punchline. Let her keep escalating, keep recording, then pull the pin at the annual HOA budget meeting, when the whole community will be in one room and money will finally talk louder than her voice. Harvest is coming, corn turning gold, and I get the feeling Diane is winding herself up for something big, which is fine, because so am I. The week before the HOA meeting, my cameras catch Diane at 3 in the morning, climbing a ladder in the dark, trying to spray over my security domes. What she doesn't know is that Carla told me desperate people do desperate things, so I already installed backup units, hidden trail cams watching the main cameras, and all she really accomplishes is giving us an extra angle of her sabotage. Next night, she's back with another oil can, tracing a neat line from my equipment area toward Brightvale Ridge's drains, this time with more dead fish, more photos, more evidence for her online crusade, and more video for us, right down to the grocery bag the fish came in. She floods Oak Ridge social media with safety alerts, prints signs that say toxic agricultural activity, stay indoors during farm operations, tells parents to keep kids inside when I'm running the combine. Newer residents panic. Older ones roll their eyes. Mrs. Turner, who's lived out here 40 years, tells her in the comments, if farming were that deadly, half of us would be ghosts. Federal environmental inspectors arrive. Serious faces, clipboards, air and soil instruments. I walk them through everything. They test, measure, shake their heads at the staged spill, and finally say, Mr. Ramsey, your farm is cleaner than the regulations require. Whoever filed these reports is abusing the system. Charges escalate again, this time with scary phrases like false federal reporting and agro-terror panic. And still, Diane pushes forward, like she can talk reality into changing if she screams hard enough. Finally, harvest day. Crisp air, sky clear, corn perfect. I'm ready to make my last big run before the weather turns. I walk out at dawn and stop dead. My access road is completely blocked. Diane's BMW parked sideways across the easement like a barricade, hazard lights flashing, phone in her hand as she live-streams herself to her little online army. I walk up slowly, gravel crunching under my boots, cameras on my barn, on my house, on my phone, all watching. You're blocking my right-of-way, I tell her, voice flat, tired. I'm protecting this community. She snaps back, window cracked just enough to talk. This road is closed for safety. There will be no harvest today. I call Deputy Chavez, tell him what's going on. He says he's on his way and tells me not to do anything but film. So I stand there, listening to Diane tell the internet she's standing against chemical warfare disguised as farming. Watching the comments scroll past, even some of her own supporters asking if she's allowed to block a farm road. The cruisers roll up, lights splashing red and blue over green corn. Chavez steps out, calm as ever, tells her to move the car because she's interfering with legal agricultural work, reminds her the HOA doesn't outrank state law, gives her every chance to back down. Instead, she floors it. Not away, not to the side, straight toward my combine, which is parked off to the side, engine off, giant and absolutely still. She hits it with a crunch that feels like the world exhaling. Her front end crumples, coolant hisses out, plastic and metal scatter, and my corn head has one little scratch in the paint. She jumps out, pointing at me, at the machine, screaming about being attacked by equipment, while 4 different cameras show the opposite, show her turning the wheel, her foot on the gas, her car driving into non-moving steel. Insurance? Done. Lease protections? Gone. Financial life? Cracking right there on my gravel. Chavez reads her rights while the tow truck driver hooks up what's left of her BMW. And I hand over 3 copies of the footage because, like I told him, I've been backing up everything since this started. That night, at the Brightvale Ridge Community Hall, every chair is taken. The air smells like bad coffee, cheap carpet, and righteous anger. Reporter Ethan Doyle from the Oak Ridge Gazette sets up in the corner, sensing the story. Diane walks in late. No BMW, just an exhausted Uber ride and a brittle attempt at her old authority. Tries to start the meeting with a speech about agricultural terror and community defense. But people aren't having it anymore. Voices cut her off, asking where their dues went, why she totaled her car in front of a combine, why the FBI is suddenly calling. Ruth Ellison stands up, small, 70+, eyes sharp, and lays out the numbers. $35,000 paid to Kettering Community Solutions, LLC. More to a nephew's landscaping outfit. Management fees that match BMW lease payments. Contracts issued without competitive bids, all in violation of their own bylaws. Then Carla Monroe steps forward, explains that Diane is now facing charges for interference with agriculture, environmental fraud, embezzlement, maybe more, that the feds have frozen accounts linked to her husband's company, that the insurance company and the leaseholder are both coming for the balance on that totaled car. My turn. I plug in the laptop, hit play, and let 6 months unspool on the projector. The fake oil spill, the midnight signs, the roadblocks, the live streams, and finally, from 4 angles, the BMW driving into a parked Harvester. The room is so quiet you can hear people breathing. When the lights come back up, someone in the back says, "We trusted you." And it sounds less like anger and more like a funeral. They vote to remove her as HOA president. They vote to cooperate with law enforcement. They vote to support my farm's right to operate. And then, as if the universe wants a neat ending, Deputy Chavez walks in with a stack of papers, a warrant on new charges and civil suits from the insurance company and lease company. He cuffs her gently, but firmly, walks her out past the neighbors whose money she stole and whose lives she tried to upend. 3 months later, a judge gives Diane Kettering time in federal prison, plus years of financial cleanup. Ruth's new board recovers the missing funds, cuts dues, and uses part of the restitution to re-gravel my access road. There's a certain poetry in watching her theft turn into the very improvement she fought against. We start an annual Oak Ridge Harvest Festival on the old HOA lawn. Kids from Brightvale Ridge climb up into my combine. Parents learn about soil, dust, safety rules, and just how many laws actually protect the food that shows up on their plates. Emma runs school programs. We host farm-to-table dinners in the barn, and the same fields Diane tried to turn into a crime scene become the bridge between town and country. The case of Ramsey versus Kettering ends up in agricultural journals and legal toolkits. Other farmers call, saying our story gave them a roadmap to push back without losing their minds or their land. And most evenings now, ISI. Tea on the porch, watching corn sway in the wind, breathing easier than I have in years. So here's what I keep circling back to, and what I want to throw to you. Now that you've walked this whole journey with me, when someone abuses a little neighborhood power to threaten your home, your work, your family, where's the line? Do you keep your head down and hope they get bored? Or do you document every step and drag the whole truth into the light? Even if it means breaking the fake peace. What's justice? What's revenge? And in a world of HOAs and small farms, which one do you think we owe to the next generation?